no.
Maybe
I like it.
Yeah, I've been told by many
Wow, I
people
feel so-
that I'm going to regret my decision. I don't
Hello,
think
everybody. I'm Devin. I'm
Hi,
the
Devin.
president of Ratio Christi. If you don't know where you are, you're at Ratio Christi. You should stay here. We're going to talk about some very interesting stuff. But before that, I have some announcements. We have a fall break trip coming this next weekend. If you don't know, that is fall break. Do not show up to school on Monday or Tuesday. There is none. But show up to our retreat. We have a retreat that Monday and Tuesday. It's going to be from 10 a.m. on Monday until a little bit after lunch on Tuesday. We're just going to have a manuscript study. It's going to be really fun. We're going to go outside and enjoy the mountains, go on a hike, just have a great time. Yes.
What's a manuscript study?
Well, we can actually explain this. A manuscript study is essentially you get an entire book of the Bible and you read it as a manuscript, as it was originally written. So we take all of the chapters out, we take all of the verse numbers out, because they didn't split it up into chapters and verses. So we're just going to go through an entire book of the Bible and just read it as it was written, such in a manuscript. So we're going to be doing that. We're going to have Carl help us just lead us through that. It's going to be great. We're going to spend a lot of time outdoors and get lots of food and just do all sorts of fun stuff. So I'd recommend you joining us for that. It's only $20 and we feed you for 5 meals. So, and we give you a wonderful place to sleep and you get to look at the mountains and go on hikes. So please consider it. There's a bunch of information in the chat. There's the link in the chat. If you don't know about our GroupMe, please talk to one of the leaders after. That is where we do most of our communication. So make sure you grab one of us if you're interested. Also, Donald has a emailing list. So if you would like to be on our emailing list, we just email you before every Monday and tell you what's going to be happening, if we're tabling, who's going to be coming. So if you'd like to receive those, go sign up with Donald and he will add you and you will receive our weekly emails.
Tonight's the last night.
Yes. So for the fall break trip that we're doing, tonight is the deadline. We would like everybody who wants to come to sign up by today so that we can figure out all of the information and get food for all of you and get rides for all of you, everything like that. So if you would like to come, please sign up by tonight. If you sign up by tomorrow morning or something, we're not gonna hunt you down or anything. So that if you just completely forget, but please try and get it done by tonight. That would be wonderful. It helps us. It'll help you get wonderful food. So do that.
It's only about 20 miles from here.
Yeah, it's only 20 miles. It's 30 minutes up the mountain. It's not some 5-hour road trip going anywhere. We're going to organize rides for everyone. So if you don't have a car or don't know what you're going to do, we got you covered. Besides that, next week, again, talking about fall break, we are not going to be meeting because it's fall break. There's no school. There's nothing. We're not going to be tabling. We're not going to be doing anything like that. But the following week, we will be back. So please keep an eye out for that email if you're on the email list, or we will send out a message come closer to that date. But besides that, I think I can pray us in and introduce our speaker. So if you'll bow your heads with me. Lord, I thank you for tonight and all the people that you've brought here. I pray that you give us ears to listen to everything that's said in here and that we would be able to learn something from it. We'd be able to ask good questions. We'd have good conversation. I just thank you for this opportunity that we get every Monday to come together and meet. I just pray that you continue to give us that opportunity. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Without further ado, we have Professor David Spiegel. He is a wonderfully smart person. He was here a couple weeks ago, so many of you probably recognize him. But I will just give him the floor and he will dump some knowledge on us.
Okay,
here's our question, and then I'm gonna just tell you just a little background. Our question tonight is, this is what I propose to my students, and I work at a state school, right? Do human moral intuitions of right and wrong, our moral experience, our awareness of standards, does it necessitate an explanation appealing to a transcendent reality or not? Okay? And as Christians, I'm going to say yes, we're going to say yes. It's the only way to best explain our moral experience, the force of our moral intuitions. It has to have a grounding outside of this universe, and I'll kind of explain that. But the background is, in my classes, when I talk about ethical objectivism and ethical subjectivism, this is maybe one of my parts of the semester that I feel God really uses. And for a lot of students, it's the first time they entertain the possibility of immaterial objects, a transcendence, and it may be one of the first times they say, you know what, some of these religious philosophers are not dummies, and they are thinking deeply about certain things, and I can see how with moral experience it has made some start believing in God. And so I see that happening a lot. I once, this was this semester, I was teaching this, and there was a student in the back. His name's Anthony, I won't give you his last name. And while I was giving the ethical objectivist position, Anthony was back there going, so there's a spiritual battle going on. You try teaching when you see that going on in the back and see how fun that is, right? So he came up afterwards and he said, I just want to make sure I'm understanding what this is. And he goes, I don't buy this at all. And I got the impression it was the first time he kind of heard a serious defense of what objectivists say about morality and its connection to God. Well, the following Monday, he said, Dave, you know, I've been thinking about that argument all weekend, and I think I'm come halfway on it. Okay, he just was confronted with something and had some presuppositions about religious thinkers, and there was movement. I once had someone come up and say, you know what, I think some of these actions humans do, I think they're really wrong. And what do? I always thought it was a subjectivist. And I said, well, you may want to entertain that ethical subjectivism is not going far enough explaining intuitions, and you have a couple options, theism or Platonism, or something like that. But you see movement, so hopefully this can help. Now, what I've done is I've read lots of books on this. A lot of you have. You had your little table out there. Can we be good with, without God? Even though I've read some stuff on this approach is mine. I've just tailored it. What do I think is one of the best ways to get people to think about our moral intuitions, and can it be best explained by the transcendent, namely God? Okay, so hopefully, because this is unique, I didn't get it out of a couple chapters in a book on this, is I tailored it, and there's nothing wrong with doing that. Hopefully there'll be a unique slant that you'll get some insights out of it. So I really hope. Okay, so that's our question. We have these moral intuitions. Do they necessitate appealing to a transcendent or not to fully capture what is going on, right? So those that say yes, it does, and I've got some questions here for you. And we are having a visitor coming today from the military, and I've got some props that we're going to use here, okay? So that's coming. Okay, yes, it does. This is an ontological explanation, and I'm attaching that term to this theory, ethical objectivism. Have you guys heard of that phrase before? Okay. Moral realism, whatever you want to call it. Right and wrong have an objective, transcendent existence, independent of human preferences. So let me ask you, what do you think I mean by ontological? This explanation is going to be an ontological one. The other one, ethical subjectivism, is going to be a sociological explanation. So what do you think I mean by ontological? Yeah.
By the words, how they're defined.
Okay, not quite. What does ontology mean? Being. So how does some entity have being? How does it exist? What is it? Is it physical? Is it immaterial? That's what we kind of, when we're talking about ontology. So with this explanation, ethical objectivists, a lot of them are theists, a lot of them are Christians, say the best way to explain our moral intuitions is we have to go deeper and talk about what the source of these intuitions are, and is there a moral reality out there, and you have to have it to explain this signaling we're getting. So we want to get behind and go, what part of reality's sending us this messaging, okay? That's what we mean by ontological, okay? What do we mean by transcendent? Because this says you got to have an objective transcendent existence. What does transcendent mean? It can be a simple, people throw this around. What does that mean? Above and beyond the physical. You have physical substance, this universe. There is another, this would be dualism. There is another reality that's immaterial, that's above and beyond the physical. We need something else other than Lego pieces, okay? All right? And then what do we mean by objective? I'm going to, okay, hang on. Okay. I need a volunteer, just a I'm not gonna embarrass you, can I have a volunteer? All you have to do is repeat something. Okay, what's your name?
Blaine.
Blaine? Okay, Blaine, I want you to say, I sincerely believe you are not holding a Nietzsche puppet behind your back.
I sincerely believe you are not holding a Nietzsche. They said Nietzsche.
Nietzsche.
Nietzsche puppet behind your back.
Okay, sincere, and that's what he wants to believe. Okay, what's behind my back here? Well, what's behind my back?
It's like a Nietzsche puppet.
A Nietzsche puppet. That's what here, and look, he really was, religion angered him. Look at the furrowed brow. He's pessimistic. He's got bitterness and unforgiveness, and that only hurts yourself. We all know that, right? Okay, so here's my point. You can tell me what you'd like or based on your preferences, but the objective fact is that there was a puppet. So objective just means what is actually the case, independent and regardless of your beliefs or preferences, okay? So that's all we mean by that. So we got those terms down. Here's a formal definition. This is from Ed Miller, his textbook. He taught at CU in the philosophy department for a long time. He's deceased now. I actually could have gotten his entire library, by the way. Someone offered it to me, but I had no room. I just didn't. And everything's so much on the internet now. I don't know, maybe I made a mistake? Okay, so here's a formal definition. This view affirms that our moral values standards are independent of individual opinions and ascribes to them an abiding and fixed reality common to all. Right and wrong have a real objective existence. They are there before you were born, okay? You don't determine them, you don't invent them. Objective moral values have their own status quite independent of our individual emotional responses. So what Blaine did there, that's what we meant. His opinions didn't change the objective fact, okay? That's what that term means in philosophy, no matter where you go, okay? And these values, like I said, are discovered. They are already there. So I'll tell my class they were there before you were born, and that really makes a lot of them think, okay? So, what about the other side? No, it does not. You do not need an ontological or a transcendent to explain our moral standards. This would be a sociological explanation, ethical subjectivism, okay? Right and wrong standards are essentially codified majority votes based in human preference about behavior. So here's another question. What do I mean by sociological explanation? What does that mean? Yeah.
It's defined by social interaction, by group behavior.
Behavior, social function.
Yeah, group behavior sounds like
Okay. That's good. This view says we don't need to go transcendent. We can explain moral standards without appealing to anything outside this universe. These are behavior guidelines that serve a very crucial and useful function in society. They guide acceptable behavior, they discourage unacceptable behavior. So they're not going ontological, and can anybody figure out why when you think of worldviews? Ethical subjectivists, are they in the most going to be theist or maybe adopt a secular naturalistic mindset?
Natural.
Okay, they'll be secular, they'll be naturalistic. So where does a naturalist stand on the transcendent God and Plato's world of forms? They have a problem with that. So when they hear that right and wrong is best explained by a transcendent, their worldview, they don't believe a transcendent is possible. They don't want to go there, okay? Now, as an argument, if our moral intuitions point that way, that's very interesting, but they are going to prefer the sociological explanation. These are codified majority votes that we make legal or illegal. And legal is what is right, in quotation marks always, because they're dependent on votes, and illegal is behaviors we want to discourage, all wrapped around survival, okay? So there's the sociological, and here, and then these would be invented. We invent these standards, so you see the difference already? The ethical objectivists are going to say somehow right and wrong has an existence in ontology. And to adequately explain them, we've got to go deeper than just the sociological explanation. The other side says, no, they're not out there. They are codified majority preferences. Okay, so you see the big difference? One, it's sociological, guide behavior. The other will not dispute that. They go deeper. And I think you have to go deeper to really explain our intuitions adequately, okay? Now, subjectivism, what subject are they talking about? It's based on preferences. Which subject is being referred to here? Us, ethical subjectivism. Behaviors are based on the preferences of the human subject, okay? And then, of course, they are invented, okay? Now, this kind of makes sense. If there's no God, no transcendent, who's left in the universe, everybody? Who's left?
Us.
Us. And I share this. I say, if there's no God, these subjectivists are right. All that are left is us. What choice do we have? We have to come up with behaviors we think are conducive to our survival, because evolution, we want to survive and we don't like pain, right? So how can we increase comfort, reduce pain, and flourish and survive? It's up to us. What's legal is what promotes that, and we make illegal what thwarts that. But if there is no transcendent, that view is what choice do we have, it actually makes sense. But you see very, very different conceptions, and it's all based on what kind of universe we live in. And even if you're undecided, just by thinking about our intuitions, this turns into the moral argument for the existence of God, right? That's essentially what this becomes, is that the best way to explain our intuitions, there has to be a God, okay? All right, can any of you give me some common phrases for ethical subjectivism? What are some phrases you hear all the time that'll tip you off you're dealing with a...
That's just my truth.
Okay. Can you think of some others?
follow your heart.
Okay.
I'm glad you believe that, but.
All right, that's good.
Yeah.
What's true for you is true for you, what's true for me, I just can't say it without being with that voice. What's true for you is true for you, what's true for me is true for me, right? Go ahead.
Something along what you just said, your own moral code.
Right? That's according to your interpretation. You can kind of see this. Protagoras said something. What did the pre-Socratic? Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Just that people will be like, oh, I don't need a book to tell me if I'm a good person or not.
Yes. Okay. Just standards, objective standards from religious sources. That's not where I'm at. Right? We get to kind of design our philosophical framework. That's part of the secular mindset, right? Protagoras, do you remember what Protagoras said, the pre-Socratic? A man is the measure of all things. That's ethical subjectivism. What does it say in the book of Hebrews? This is not a new philosophy. It's been around for thousands of years. What does it say in the book of Judges? Everybody did what was right in their own eyes. Okay? So it's been around. That's what we mean by that. Now, here's what happens a lot, and I want you to think about this. As soon as you bring up the objectivist position, if you're one-on-one with someone, you're going to get almost immediately this retort. They're going to actually paraphrase subjectivism. Your average person who's a subject, they go, "Oh no, you don't need a transcendent. You don't need God." Besides, we just come up with these behaviors on our own, and a naturalistic, subjectivistic ethical system is very possible for societies to come up with, right? We don't need God. Besides, you can come up with a naturalistic ethical behavior system. I have an admin, not my admin now, has moved, Morgan, and as soon as we somehow swerved into this topic, and he immediately said when I brought up objectivism, oh, it's not necessary, you don't have to believe in God to come up with behavior guidelines. It's good to be ready for that. Does anybody know how you would respond to that? Because a lot of times it's going to be a quick retort back. There's a quick retort in response. What would you say to that? Someone said, "Oh, you can explain, you can guide behaviors with principles agreed on in a society." Anybody know? I'll tell you what I said. Do you have an idea what you could say to that? Because it's going to surprise them a little bit.
Which society? Which society?
Well, they'll say any society can come up, it depends on the society, they'll come up with their own behavior principles.
If there's a conflict between societies?
Yeah, might makes right. They don't want to go there. It seems like we're all just have our own little systems and we're separated by oceans. But if there's a conflict, yeah, it's might makes right. Here's what I said. I said, that's not the issue, Morgan. Are you aware ethical objectivists have never denied that you can come up with a naturalistic ethical system? It's not controversial. You could all say we got here by evolution, right? We all want to survive. So we come up with behaviors that are legal, that promote our survival, and we make behaviors illegal that do not. And I said that is actually not controversial. Where in the ethical objectivist position have they denied the possibility of a country not believing in God and being able to come up with principles to guide behavior? And he kind of looked like a deer in headlights for a minute because I said objectivists have never disputed that. That's not what we're focusing on. We're focusing on that if that's all you think these morality is coming up with principles, which, like I said, is very doable. We think you're not capturing the essence or going deep enough or adequately explaining our moral intuitions at a depth that they need to be explained. So I said, you're right about that, but that's not what this issue is about. This issue is about We need to go behind these intuitions and go to an ontology. We have never ever, our dispute is not that a sociological explanation is not possible. It is. It is possible, okay? So that's, if you file that away, that's not a bad way to respond to that. You say, guess what, Morgan, I totally agree with you. That is not, there's no controversy there. The issue we think has to be deeper, and here's where we as Christians, we would say this. I think the ontological explanation is a more adequate and intelligent one. I think we're thinking more deeply about this, okay? So maybe be prepared for that, okay? And that's not a bad way. They'll be surprised when you'll say, totally agree with you. That's kind of not what we're talking about, is do we need to go beyond that? Okay, so any questions so far on this? And then what I was gonna do is give you my tailored case over 27 years of how I thought it best to present this to my students.
So it's just a case of how deep they're going into it. You know, they don't look behind. Because like you said, we agree on what they're trying to argue against us, like we don't agree with them. But they're just not diving deeper into kind of why that happens.
Why these intuitions are there? They're probably gonna say, since you've been a little baby, mommy said share, share, share. And it just gets inculcated, and you know, we think it's deeper than that. We're tapping into a real reality, okay? Or we're dancing to our DNA. And then we'll talk about magnesium and morality here in a minute. Okay, I've got my props. Atoms. Okay. Lego pieces, I like that. Okay. So here's my case. First, bottom line, our intuitions make us aware of an authoritative moral reality of some kind. Here's what I mean by that. About 12 years ago, before COVID, I had debates in my classes. One of the debates was is morality objective or subjective, okay? I had a woman in there, she was about mid-20s, a little older, intelligent, precocious, and opinionated and persuasive. She comes up, Dave, she goes, I want to debate that morality is objective, and I want to go first. I go, fine, I would have them draw from a hat randomly the debates and encourage them, if you debate another side, that's not a bad thought exercise, right? But at the same time, if you got a position that you honestly could not do because it was too close to home or you didn't want to, go switch with someone in the class and just let me know. But if someone wanted to, I said, sure. So you know what she did the day of the debate? She's debating ethical objectivism. She says, hi everybody, I'm gonna play a little video for about 1.5 minutes, and then I think I'll just give up my time after I just say a few words, and the other side, the subjectivist, could respond. So she presses this button and this video plays. You see the cutest little baby with a bib in a high chair with a nanny. This is a nanny cam. And what unfolded was one of the worst cases of baby abuse you could ever see. It was awful, okay? And every time, I never cry, you know? You man your eyes, you just don't cry. I get that from my wife. I never cry. It's hard when I talk about, I wished I hadn't seen it. It was awful. It was so bad. You're never gonna see it at my hand. And I was irritated afterwards. I had her come up and I said, you know, you really needed to run that video by me and ask everybody in the class permission because they've seen something. I still think of that video once every 3 weeks or more. That's how bad it was. A cute baby, the power differential was awful. Now that nanny is in prison. You know that, and the parents suspect, but it was awful. And I could see in my class, some of these kids are going, And I'm going, where in the heck do you find something like this? Okay? But it was bad. And so she got up and said, okay, I think some things are wrong, but of course the other side, it depends on human preference and voting. I think this is wrong. I think all of you are intuiting the force of this. And if I asked any of you in this class, do you think what this nanny did was wrong? Do you think any of you first are going to do this? I first need to know where this happened, because I just want to know what the laws are. I said, are any of you going to care where this happened? What do you think? No. So that already shows you they don't care squat about votes and preferences. This has transcended that, okay? So I share this and just say, look, we all seem to intuit right and wrong with a lot of force. We're getting some strong messaging that right and wrong is there, and unless we're in a philosophy class, it's there and we don't question it, okay? What it is, how it is, we intuit this. Okay? So in the video, just brings it up is that this includes guilt and the conscience. So I say objectivists start with just what are the facts? The facts are, it seems like we're intuiting right and wrong with a lot of force and authority. Nobody's going to say that that's okay to do. And we can think of lots of other examples where this wrongness comes upon us, right? A lion, what does a lion do with their baby sons or other baby, what do you call baby lions? Kitties or kittens or?
Cubs.
Cubs, okay. What does an adult male lion who's head of the pride sometimes do with male cubs? Kill them, because they're gonna get big and maybe take over the pride. Is the lion in anguish and goes and gets an attorney? No, just sleeps like a baby. We ever did something like this, that there's this moral reality, that something's invaded the room crashing in. So I say, I'm trying to explain to my kids why we have objectivists. And I said, objectivists, because of this experience we all have, say there seems like we have a moral reality coming our way. That right and wrong, for real seems to be there. Then they go to the second point. Objectivists then say, you know what? This moral awareness is best explained by there being an actual ontological source to it. You can go the other route, but I'm saying the objectivists say, look, we intuit with force and authority and obligation a moral reality. It just makes sense that if you say, did you know there's a right and wrong, we intuit? Did you know there's a right and wrong, but right and wrong don't exist? They say to suggest it exists makes a lot of sense, that there's got to be a source. There has to be a moral base station out there sending out moral radar signals. So from our experience, which is the facts, which I say is compelling, the video is very compelling, okay? All of you watching it, some of you would have teared up, and then you also would have started thinking about justice at the same time. This is a moral experience. So the objectivists say, we think the reality of these intuitions, there has to be a source. There has to be a moral dimension to reality, moral facts that we're picking up on, a moral framework, moral girders, right? This is what objectivists do. And to have these experiences that we take seriously and not then postulate their existence doesn't make sense to a lot of objectivists, okay? And Plato, do you know what Plato was Socrates? Anybody know how Plato was, where did Plato's philosophy differ from Socrates? You may not know this, you could. Do you know where Plato expanded on Socrates' thought that Socrates didn't have a comment about? Anybody know what that is? Don't feel bad if you don't. Socrates, you remember he went around and he talked about justice, truth, beauty, but he always stayed a dualistic skeptic. He wanted to keep asking questions. He never settled. He wants to ask questions to help people grow and himself, right? Plato got a little frustrated, like, you talk so much about beauty, justice, truth. You spend your whole life talking about these things, trying to understand what these are, what the right definitions are. Do they exist, or how do they exist? What is their ontology? Socrates never really developed something. Plato did. He said truth, beauty, justice, math, logic actually exists in where? The world of forms. Plato's, good job, warehouse heaven. Okay? So you see what Plato did is, you are talking about these things all the time. You take them seriously, your intuitions, they're serious, moral intuitions, they have to have some kind of existence, okay? And so then this goes to the next question. If there's a moral dimension out there, how does it exist, right? I don't know if you've been thinking about what is it? Is it an object, or where is it, or how is it, right? It's either physical or immaterial, and objectivists say we're not dealing with physical stuff. Right and wrong is not atomic, right? And I got a little. Here, does this happen, you guys? Here's magnesium, it's a pretty big molecule. Here's titanium, I understand it's a little bigger. Am I right here? Any chemist in here? You're STEM, am I right?
Yes.
Okay, and baby helium, this is titanium. Helium's real tiny, right?
Yeah.
Does this happen? Titanium sees that magnesium is stealing helium's lunch money every day. Does titanium, the atom, go to magnesium and say, hey, what the heck are you doing? That's wrong. You can't take helium's lunch money. Now, do atoms do this? Do atoms do this? No. They're stupid. Okay? Atoms are stupid, they're all moral. J.P. Moreland, you've heard of him? Okay. He said, you can add up atoms all you want and configure them. Bottom line, all you have is atoms. And I've read some stuff on philosophy of mind, about 4 or 5 books. They're technical. I still think you could reduce it down. Atoms don't care about morality. They're inanimate. So this is not a molecular reality. It can't come from atoms, okay? It has to be immaterial. And you realize in philosophy, we're always used to objects that are physical, right? Is this an object, you guys? The pen? The podium? It's hard, my head? Okay, ow, that hurt. Okay, we got these physical objects here, right? There are also in philosophy immaterial objects. And I will tell them, objectivists say, when you think about the ontology, this is not a molecular reality, and I don't think it has to be any more complicated than this. Go right down to here, molecules, where are you getting right and wrong intuitions from the actual molecules? You're going to have to go sociological. You're not going to be able to ground them as there's a real right and wrong out there. The objectivists think you can, and I agree. And there's 2 candidates, everybody. The 2 candidates are, the first one is Platonism. Does anybody who said the world of forms? Who was that? Okay, see, I put people to sleep. Okay,
Alex.
You had said world of forms.
Yeah,
Can you explain the world of forms a little bit, just as best you can?
yeah, I was not asleep, by the way, I just put my head down.
Okay.
No, seriously, I'm being truthful. Anyway, the world of forms. So the idea is that Plato posited that again, posited this extra this is place outside of reality where the perfect versions of all things just existed, and this reality just has the imperfect copies of each.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay,
So there's a perfect tree, and all we have is imperfect trees.
all right, that is not bad. Platonism says there are objects that exist that are immaterial, that exist kind of, my theory is warehouse heaven. You laughed a little bit, Carl. Did you like that phrase?
Yeah.
Kind of a warehouse heaven I picture with dry ice on the bottom and the perfect triangle, the perfect definition of justice, beauty, truth is there, and right and wrong standards. So objectivists, some can be Platonists and say right and wrong are abstract, and this is mind independent, okay? Mind independent standards here. Like that's why I say warehouse heaven. Here's something to maybe help you understand this. If you are convinced of a real thing, of reality that you're experiencing, but you don't think it's made out of atoms, then this is as best as we all can do. You've had philosophers that say they have an ideal immaterial existence. They're real, they're immaterial. And he said they're in the world of forms, okay? So that's one place they could be. They could be mind-independent, abstract objects, and he called them forms, one of the most important words or phrases in all of philosophy. We call them universals now. I've been to philosophy conferences. You can still sit in on papers whether forms or universals exist or not, okay? The other, I'm giving you the top two. What's the other one, everybody? They could be abstract, mind-independent objects. What?
Theism?
Theism, God. The second one is they are part of the essence and character of God or attributes of God or divine concepts in the mind of God. Okay, so let's call this divine conceptualism. This is only one theory of how they're related to God. You can read whole books on objectivists who are theists arguing about this. Okay? But you see how this makes sense? Now this is mind dependent. Have you all heard of Augustine?
Yeah.
Okay, Augustine was a Platonist before he became a Christian, or he left Manichaeism, a good God and an evil God, and he became a Christian, but he really thanked Plato for making him realize that you have to postulate another realm for certain realities we don't think you can reduce to molecules, right? Okay, so to him, he said, this doesn't make sense. Math, truth, justice, beauty, these are the concerns of a mind, a personality, someone who's moral. There's not some empty warehouse, so to speak. There's not a real warehouse, you guys, just so you know. You can't take a spaceship to the world of forms. You've got a reason to it, right? Here's what Augustine, he's famous for this line. He goes, no, I'm not buying this. Plato, you rounded third, good job, it's incredible. But I think the Hebrews and the theists got it right. These things are the concern of a mind. So Augustine's famous for this line. He took the forms of Plato and he put them in the, what you guys? The mind of God. And so as objectivists, we think these are moral properties, concepts in the mind of God, part of his essence or whatever. That's where they are. And when he made us in his image, we're able to have some communication about them. But they're not physical, okay? So for objectivists, this is, some people may be open to God or no God. This has led more than a few thinkers to start believing in God because they knew there was a right and wrong, and the only way to explain it, you had to have a God to explain what these are and where they were. And technically not where, if it's immaterial, it's out of space and time, right? Okay, then let me ask you about this here just a little bit. Are Platonist objectivists? Yes, they both are objectivists. You remember that there are two candidates who believe, okay, so they are. Platonists are objectivists and so are theists. Why would some professional philosophers prefer Platonism over theism? Because here it's mind independent, which right and wrong and math and truth just seem a little out of place there. They're not in the mind. But why, if you get philosophers who are objectivists, and by the way, this may interest all of you, between subjectivists and objectivists in professional philosophy, it's about 52 to 60 professional philosophers are objectivists. And a little less are subjectivists, because the objectivists realize the best way to explain our intuitions, you've got to transcend the atomic. Okay? So that's encouraging. It may have surprised you. You might have thought, oh, 70% of philosophers are subjectivists. They're not. It's about 50-50, trending a little bit more for objectivism. But not all of them are theists. Why, if you're an objectivist, can you think of a reason why some would want to go here and not here?
Accountability?
You're getting close. It would be based on their, if you're not religious and Christianity ticks you off, or I don't know, you'll go, I can be an objectivist, I'll stay with Platonism, right? Okay? So sometimes it's a worldview issue. And if you're open to God and the transcendent, you may go with Augustine, but you'll have a lot going. I am an objectivist. I think right and wrong have to have some kind of ontology that's immaterial. This will suit me fine. I can be an objectivist, and I don't have to adopt theism. Okay? I had one student come up after I did this, and this student was not religious. Okay? And this student came up and said, Dave, this was after class. Dave, are there some other theories besides this? I'm not religious. Is this the only theories to explain where right and wrong would be if it's immaterial? Because I don't really want to go in this direction. And I said, these are the top two that preoccupy philosophers. They take these two seriously. There are some other alternatives, like some naturalists have tried to incorporate moral phenomena on top of the molecules, so to speak, supervene, but they're strained and it's not the top two. So I recommended a book for him. It was by Wiesenthal or Wiesenhaus, I don't know. There was a book that came out 2 years ago of a naturalist trying to ground objective right and wrong, but it was strained. If you start incorporating mental phenomena too much into the molecules, you just start sounding like you believe in mental substance now. So I said, I'll send you the book, but I said, if religion is not your thing, what could this student get used to maybe adopting? I said, you could go Platonism, okay? But there you see the world, because he says, I believe in objective morality. Are these the only two? I said, no, but they're the top two, okay? And then real quick here, we'll get through this so I can share some of these other things that I'm going to need your participation in, okay? The third one would be, the third step is the objectivist will say, we like this theory, you know what? It's not counterintuitive, it aligns with common sense, right? And common sense says, we seem to think there is a right and wrong out there. When you watch the nanny abuse, all of you were saying, oh my gosh, I cannot believe how wrong this is, and you're going to be angry. Our theory doesn't try to get you to re-explain it and look at it a different way. It just naturally aligns. And it squares and preserves and supports your naturally disposed intuitions. And then the next one is, they say ethical objectivism avoids disconcerting, counterintuitive implications that are tethered to subjectivism. Our theory doesn't have the problems subjectivism has to sign on to that we're going to share with you right now. Okay, and some of this you probably brought up on your book table. Okay, so, and then our visitor's coming. You remember I said a visitor is coming? Okay, so the first thing, if you're a subjectivist, you have to deny an objective right or wrong, right? So, let me illustrate this. Let's say someone here says this. That is 6 inches. Do you see that? That literal line is 6 inches, okay? Someone over here says that is 6 inches, okay? Okay, this is 6 inches, my view. No, it isn't. This is 6 inches. Yeah, what gives you the right to say that? Yeah, I was going to say the same thing to you. How dare you think you're the one who decides what 6 inches is? Oh, yeah, I was thinking the same thing to you. You know what? It's time for a smackdown because you're not listening to me, I'm not listening to you. Back and forth, back and forth. If you just had these two versions of 6 inches, you're just going to disagree, right? What could you do to settle this? You guys, what would you go get to settle this dispute about measurement?
Another person?
Then you got a 3-way tag team, World Wrestling
Keep getting more
Federation.
people.
You go get a ruler. Oh my gosh, it just happened to have one here. You go get a ruler. Oh, the ruler. Oh, there it is. It's gold. It's shiny. You put this ruler up here. Now, this is a standard, right? There's a standard there, the 6 inches. This is another standard, and you brought in a third one. What does this standard possess that the other two don't?
Truth.
I'm looking for another word.
Authority.
Okay, very good. Okay. Now, if we were in class, I'd say you will get 100 extra credit points for that. Okay. All right. This possesses authority. Now, I realize it's a ruler. A ruler could have been anything, but you see, as soon as you bring in the ruler, you're able to make objective judgment. You are too short. You are too long. This is 6 inches, right? When you have an authoritative ruler, you're then able to make judgments. When you take the ruler away, you just have differences of opinion. Instead of measurement, just change it to moral standards from society to society. If there is no objective right and wrong, an authoritative ruler, and if it comes from God, it's authoritative, you could trust him, okay? He knows what he's doing. You are able to make moral judgments, praise or condemnation. It'd be like this. The Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan, right? And Mr. Afghani says, hey, what you're doing is wrong. And what if Stalin said this? Excuse me, I'm a little convinced. Didn't you all say there is no objective right and wrong? And so what cultures do is we vote, and our truth becomes our truth, and your truth becomes your truth. So I'm curious, why or what standard are you using to judge how the Soviets voted? Don't you have to have a ruler? We got rid of the ruler. You told each of us to vote. We voted, and now you're saying we voted wrong. I'm just curious, what are you using to judge the votes? We got rid of the ruler. You can say, Mr. Afghani, we don't like what you're doing, but you shouldn't say we voted wrong, because you all told us to vote. Now we vote, you say we voted wrong. What standard are you using? When you told us to get rid of it, we did, and now we vote, and you're still jumping on our case. Don't ask me to repeat all of that all over again. Okay? Do you see the point? You can express dislike. You cannot say you voted wrong at all. The Soviets could say, look, we need a buffer zone here, okay? And your country is going to do just fine to promote our flourishing. So that's the one thing you'd have to say with subjectivism, you lose the ability to make objective condemnations, okay? And here's the other thing, and I know we're getting, if I go a little over, I think I can wrap most of this up, we're okay? All right. Here's the next thing. These are hard pills. If subjectivism is true, you've got rid of the ruler, you can't settle disputes. You can just say, we don't like how you voted. That seems really weak, doesn't it? Right? Here's the other one. If you are a subjectivist, your worldview has defaulted to a blind evolutionary causal network, okay? That's your universe. If you abandon theism or Platonism or all that, or not even just theism, the default for the secular mind is we got here by blind evolution. If that's true, any reason that comes out of this blind evolution, here, it's just molecules. Is that annoying you enough to let me know? Okay, we just have molecules. You can come up with any reason you want. There's nothing right about the reasons, and if someone has a bigger army, they can say, I don't have to listen to your guidelines for behavior. Nothing comes out of Lego pieces. You can come up with lots of reasons to behave. Nobody has to listen to them because they're not right. They're just something you have found useful. Now I'll illustrate this. I am here. How many stars is this, you guys? How many stars? 5, okay. I am a 5-star general. I told you, general physicalist, that we had a guest. Okay. I'm general physicalist. To illustrate, if we got here by evolution and all we are is atoms, that's all that exists, I want you guys to tell me why murder's wrong, and you have to be respectful. Say, general physicalist, the reason murder is wrong is because. And the only rule is we live in a physicalist universe only. So try to participate. Just tell me why murder is wrong. Now, if you don't say anything, I'm assuming you guys are down with murder. Down. Just give me a reason.
General physicist.
Physicalist.
There we go. Murder is wrong because if we allow people to kill other people, it's not good for all of us as a whole. Like the survival of our species is at stake here.
Okay, I'll get you after. So survival, you seem to, that's interesting. So survival is better than extinction? We got here by evolution. There's nothing special about us. None of us are valuable. You're just a bunch of molecules configured in a certain way. And extinction is like ice. When you put water in the freezer, your molecules just get cold. I'm just kind of wondering, what is so special about us that if a lot were killed, that's a bad thing? You seem to be saying survival is better than extinction, and we have a survival instinct, so we need to respect that. That got here by accident. Is that the new God? Don't take this personally, okay? I'm just saying we're not valuable, so what is wrong if a lot of us just stop moving around because our molecules got still? Okay, someone else, go ahead.
What I would hear to refute that would be that life through basically rigorous process of elimination seeks to survive. So murder would not promote social survival, but you already took that out.
Yeah, why do we have to respect some rigorous process? There's nothing right about that. It was rigorous. But who says I have to respect the survival instinct, you all? Now, I'm going to respect it with me. I want to survive, but it isn't the new God. Oh, the survival instinct. Oh. It's just an instinct. It's neither right nor wrong. And frankly, I can survive better by getting rid of some of you. I got tanks, an army, big army. And you seem to be giving normative value to this evolutionary struggle. There's jack nothing right or wrong about it. Okay, don't take this personal. I've had some students, they go, you know, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, my best attempt
General physicalist.
would be,
Come on, you gotta respect the guy.
so, and I think this is what I've heard from atheists. Like, humans evolved in small groups where if you killed somebody, you became a threat to the survival of everyone around you, so they probably kill you or harm you in some way. So eventually it became part of our DNA that killing is wrong because it generally killing someone, you know, hurts our survival in small communities. And then as the world's changed and we've gone to these big cities or whatever, we still have the same DNA. So. And it
Okay.
just comes from-
There's nothing right about DNA and these patterns that have been passed down. And since I'm general physicalist, I'm not worried about being threatened and not everybody's going to get killed. But if I have to get them out of the way, it's okay. But if you guys want to cooperate to survive, that is one way. I choose not to cooperate with people. I'd rather just knock them off and get them out of the way. Have you guys ever heard of purging? You got to do that sometimes in your government. Okay? If you want to cooperate, fine, but there's nothing right about cooperating with a bunch of evolutionary accidents that jack are not valuable. Okay, did you want to? Okay,
No, you already kind of rebutted it.
okay, yeah, go ahead. Just
Gen-
let me have it here.
General physicalist. In general, throughout our evolutionary history, not cooperating has led others to not cooperate with us, lowering our own chance of survival. And you said you value your own survival, so it would make evolutionary sense to cooperate, correct?
If you want to survive, I understand you want to survive, but if you go extinct, there's nothing worse about that. You're just a bunch of molecules swarming around, okay? I know we want to survive, but there's nothing right about that instinct. It doesn't have normative authority. I want to survive too, but I've got a different opinion on how, what's best to ensure my survival, okay? And it doesn't necessarily mean thinking about millions of people. I'll make sure the people I need to make sure I get what I want, they're not going to be killed. But you're still assuming that evolution has produced something amazing, and this survival is beautiful, and the survival instinct is a very beautiful thing. It just is. It's axiologically neutral. Okay, I once had someone say, it was when I role-played as Stalin. Now, Stalin, you signed a treaty with another country that you would protect them and this and that. He would worked all weekend to come up with something. And he said, did you sign this? And I said, yeah, I lied. I'm not supposed to lie, I'm supposed to treat people. I actually thought it was pretty smart. Yeah, I did that, but I lied because it helped me survive. Okay, can any of you go away from the survival a little bit? What else would you say? You get the point here. If we got here by evolution, you can come up with reasons to behave and not kill each other. Anybody else, if they had the power, can question that those reasons don't have moral force for it, normative force. I had one student, it was during COVID, and then I'll get you, it was during COVID, said, well, what about empathy? That could guide, we all know what it's like to feel pain. And I said, do you think everybody should be empathetic? She said, yes. Well, you almost sound like an objectivist. As long as you're okay that if you want to be empathetic, that's fine, but that other people don't necessarily have to be empathetic if they don't want, then you're a subjectivist. But there's nothing right about the principle of empathy, right? And she dropped the class. I don't think she liked that. Go ahead.
General.
Physicalist, that'll work.
Murder, you shouldn't do murder because it doesn't make us feel good when we do it. Right? socially, I feel impacted when I do it.
Okay, I actually feel a little relieved because it takes care of some problems I have. It benefits my survival. But you may think if you're feeling these things, it's your conscience, it's kind of communicating to you a little bit. You thinking of that?
I feel like just in general, like it could benefit you, but you have guilt, and that's why we don't.
Yeah, you know what? I ignore guilt. There's nothing, it's just from our wiring, it's illusory of some moral framework. So logic tells me to not pay attention to it. And I actually don't feel that guilty. Because I've reasoned this out, everything is molecular, why feel guilty? I've just snuffed out some molecules moving around. Okay, one more, and then, go ahead.
Expanding on that, general physicalist, as we are all just a bunch of atoms pinging around, your genetic makeup does make sure that you feel guilt even if it doesn't come to the front of your mind, which will ultimately negatively impact you. Even if you ignore the guilt, it's still going to be there and it'll still hurt you.
What's it gonna do? Take off 6 months of my life? I can do whatever I want. And I'm not that worried about it. So here's what we'll do. We'll stop there, and I have one other point, but we'll stop and see if there are Q&A, or we good with that? Okay. But the point here is that if we are just atoms, reasons you give to say murder is really wrong, they can all be questioned. Because there'll be assumptions of something objective or normative that is not the case, no matter what it is. And let me just ask you this as a thought experiment. Do the objectivists want you to win the argument against general physicalists or not? Okay, very good. They don't want you to get the best of me. Because why? Because you're correct. Why?
Because if I won the argument against the general physicalist, that would prove that morals can exist in a physical vacuum.
Okay, that is right on. You want them to lose that if there's just atoms, you can't ground objective right or wrong, right? So they want this to happen, so maybe people will be open that I know murder's wrong. This is not hopeless. You all know murder's wrong, right? The objectivists want you to do this. If murder's wrong, and I'm convinced a little bit more now that you can't ground that with atoms, there has to be something more than atoms. God. And it explains my intuitions and this silly conversation. You guys did know I thought this was ridiculous. You guys did know that? But it was logical. Murder is wrong. We know it. If it was just this, we're hard pressed. You all were probably getting annoyed because you know it's wrong. There's a God. So that was very good. I get a lot of students, they're not sure, but you saw that the objectivists are standing here. They invited general physicalists on purpose for you to lose. So you would go, I'm more sure murder's wrong than everything is atomic. There has to be a God then. It's the only way to explain my intuitions because atoms couldn't. So there we go. And we'll stop. Okay, go ahead.
Would a true naturalist say that murder is wrong, or is it's just not useful for society?
They will say that, not useful for society. A real informed one will avoid the objective distinction. They'll just say it's not useful, and that's fine, but if someone didn't think humans were valuable, like they're logical, you just got here by evolution, and there'll be plenty of humans around. I'm not wiping out 7.3 million. Useful evolutionary accidents, yeah, we need a few of them. We don't need all of them. So, okay, you guys, we'll stop there just because I'm concerned about the time.
You do have until 8:30.
8:30.
Oh, we do. Okay. Are you guys have enough energy to just read a little passage and just tell me if this is a subjectivist or an objectivist? And I'll tell you who it is? Okay. So the hard pills were, if you don't have an objective standard, you can't make objective moral condemnations, right? The second one is, if all we are is atomic out of evolution, nothing normative can be objectively normative, can be attached to any reason why you say murder's wrong. A lot of you said, well, we want to survive. Did you see general physicalists? What's so special about the survival instinct and us surviving, right? You see how you just kept, it's all ridiculous. It doesn't even square with you. Hopefully it drives you, the objectivists say, we don't have this problem, but logically, you guys kind of have to sign up on this. And then here's the last thing is, if you're a subjectivist, every, what do I say here? When you use the words right and wrong, they always have to be understood that they're in quotation marks. So everybody take this, read this, it's not long. I just want you to ask yourself, is this a subjectivist or an objectivist? It's a personal ethical manifesto. Are you reading the personal manifesto of a subjectivist or an objectivist, okay? And I'm gonna tell you who this is when we're done. This is for number 4, means whatever preference someone has, it's always in quotation marks because it's dependent on votes, right? So who is this, a subjectivist or an objectivist?
This reads like a serial. This is not killing someone. This could be
I think it's all ridiculous. Actually follow
Anyone who goes to the world of
Okay, do you guys have an opinion? Is this a subjectivist or an objectivist?
Subjectivist.
It's clearly a subjectivist, and the person's not religious. There's a little snipe at the end about religion. This is someone who realizes we got here by evolution, not religious, and is thinking this through. Do you see that? Huh. If there's no God and everything's just molecular, there really is no right and wrong, right? Then that means if I get away with stuff, I'm not really doing things that are wrong. And why am I listening to the Supreme Court of other human beings when they're no more right than I am? Why don't I have the courage to rise up and fulfill my desires the way I want to and stop listening to people who have no more moral authority than I do, right? Do Do you guys want to, I'm gonna write down here who this was.
I guess.
No, don't guess. I've been waiting for this for
Oh,
2
okay.
weeks. Okay?
I knew it.
Makes sense.
What I write down there?
Ted Bundy.
You know who Ted Bundy is?
Mr.
He's not someone you put his portrait over your living room center display. Is that what you were gonna say?
No, actually, I was thinking this sounds a lot like Pete Singer.
Oh, no, this was Ted Bundy. He
Yeah.
reasoned through, if everything's atomic, there really is no right and wrong, no day of judgment, no God to stand for, we got here by evolution. And why am I listening to the Supreme Court, 9 justices? They're evolutionary accidents. Now, they have the power to put me in jail. That's undisputable. But if I think I can get away with what I want to do with women and fulfill my desires in the way I do, I'm not doing anything wrong in the whole scheme of things. The scary thing about that is illustrating, he realized everything was in quotation marks, dependent on the preferences of people. And he said, I don't care about their preferences. I don't care about majority votes. This is what I prefer, and I'm gonna do it. And when I die, I ain't gonna appear before Jesus. There ain't no great white throne judgment. I'm going for it, like Nietzsche said, rise up, transcend traditional morals, and make your own way without appealing to religion. So, there you go. And on that cheery note, we'll end. Okay? And you guys, I know you're tired. Was this a little too deep, or were you guys okay?
That's good.
This was
I guess
awesome.
I was patting myself on the back. Was this too deep and sophisticated? I didn't mean that. Were you guys following? You looked a little tired.
Yeah.
Okay. Was this okay? All right. Now, please tell people I don't think murder's okay.
We could have used him out there today with whiteboarding, because they argued exactly this, and they hung on to evolution like crazy.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was ridiculous.
Lego pieces give you squat when it comes to morality. You can't walk through a brick wall, so atoms, there are some objective physical realities. But with normative values, dancing to the DNA, what the heck is that? If magnesium and titanium and helium don't care about morality, where are you getting moral intuitions being passed down? You can get some behaviors, but you can question them. Okay? So, any other?
What would you say to a naturalist, like going back to the nanny and baby example, that says something like, we believe that's wrong innately because we've had no one to tell us otherwise, because every society on the planet agrees that that is bad. But like the Aztecs are okay with child sacrifice, so they had a different society, different morals.
Yes, okay, we just didn't have time. What about, do moral cultures disagree? Do not cultures disagree on moral standards? That's what you're asking. Here's the short answer. Anthropologists, they're the experts on culture, right? They've come to some conclusions, and they say we are not finding cultures disagreeing on basic moral values. There's a moral core, and this makes sense. And then I'm gonna answer the Aztec thing, okay? It gets messy though. The anthropologists are saying we see a similar moral core across continents. Now, doesn't this make sense? Let's say you have 5,000 on a continent, and you have 2,500 going, you know what, we wanna leave and find our own way. We're heading out. So they all get in boats, right? What am I doing? So you creep out. They are of the same species. They're moral. Does this happen when you get out of the boat and you land on another beach 500 miles away? Does this happen? I think stealing's awesome. I don't know why, I wanna start lying. And murder, rape, and kidnapping, I don't know, I'm down with all that now. It's just weird, I just moved out a little bit and everything changed. Can you see that that doesn't make sense? You're gonna be the same person with the same moral core, but when you get to a new environment, that moral Play-Doh, which is pink that you had, you all have the moral Play-Doh core, gets shaped differently because of new surroundings, experiences, and customs. The moral core is still there, it's still pink, so it's the same, it's shaped differently. So anthropologists say we don't see differences on basic moral principles, we see superficial differences in how those basic principles look and how they're expressed. Then there's this, if you have a worldview that is dysfunctional, that can suppress or prevent the elimination of certain things, okay? So you have that to deal with. Like if you interview Afghani women, if they're safe with a journalist and nobody's around, they're not happy the Taliban are back in there. They're not happy that their little girls can't go to school anymore and have to cover up. But that structure of that worldview and religion with dysfunction, it's like when you go swimming with a beach ball, have you guys ever tried to keep a beach ball under the water? What do you have to do to keep it under the swimming pool water? You can have a worldview suppress a moral core and prevent it from being expressed, but as soon as that is taken away, it's still there and it pops up. Now, the Aztecs really believed, probably, to save more people, the rain had to come. So this was a mistaken worldview. So they did care, let's say, I could be wrong on this, I'm just speculating. They thought it was to their advantage to do that based on something that was dysfunctional. So you could have a moral core because they're human beings, and some things are not expressed or you're interpreting it in a different way. So I'd have to look more into that, but you know what the anthropologists have said? We have not found two cultures yet where we conclusively have shown a difference in a basic moral principle. That's quite a statement. They did say this, we think we might have found one between the Hopi and some other Indian tribe, but it's still controversial because two different graduate research institutions at colleges are separately embedded in these two different tribes, and they're using different methodologies. This is from Patrick Grimm. He was a philosopher and anthropologist. And the anthropologists, they know all about these tough things. And they still say we're seeing a similar moral core everywhere, but a variety of external things can either suppress it or change its expression. And you've got to embed, and you start realizing people are pretty similar in a lot of ways. And people are evil too. We know the good, we just want to hurt people. So you have to be open to that also. But that's what they're saying right now. Here would be an example. The Trobriand Islands, when they have a baby, when the mom has a baby, well, in the United States, if you get married and have a baby, who are the primary responsible caregivers for the baby? Their biological parents or adopted, right? In the Trobriand Islands, it's the uncle. Does this mean that we have two different moral creatures in Papua New Guinea and here? No. Carl, why?
No, because they still have an underlying value of a need to care for the child.
Yes, someone's responsible for the little whippersnapper. It just happens to be the uncle of the mother. It's really, and I'm sure if we were there, we could even speculate. We could find out why they came, but it's not a moral difference. Some people get tripped up on the superficial difference, but when you get down and clear the leaves, they see this moral trunk that's there. And think of the boat. Why, if humans creeped out, are they gonna be completely different as soon as they get out of the boat on a new shore? What you would expect is a similar core, but circumstances affect the moral Play-Doh that's still pink. It's just gonna be shaped a lot differently. And some worldviews suppress the core that's there. They're afraid to, it's just not there. And the Aztecs, I'd have to find out, does anybody know, what was the main reason they were sacrificing? Was it to be mean, or they thought a benefit would come?
Fertility. It was for fertility.
Fertility
They
for
would
who?
sacrifice the person and take their heart out and hold it up. And they're appealing to the gods of some kind.
For whose fertility, the tribe?
The crops.
Okay,
They also
And-
thought the sun wouldn't rise the next day, they didn't sacrifice the guy.
so they had a mistaken worldview that skewed facts and cause-effect relationships. And it was exerting a lot of influence. But if you lived there, besides that, you might just start seeing normal people. Look, if you go on student abroad, have any of you done student abroad? Okay, you live in another country, I don't care what country you're in, you go to Russia, you're there 3 months, here's what's gonna happen. Kalishnikov, if you don't stop hitting your sister, you're going to bed now with no pierogi for dessert. Is that gonna happen in every dinner table in the entire world? There's a moral, we're all pretty much the same wherever we go. And, so that's a quick answer there. And the Aztecs, the anthropologists know about these things. They're saying we're only seeing superficial differences. We're not seeing basic differences. So, and I'm not an anthropologist, so. Okay, all right, you guys are gonna hate me, it's 8:36.
Yeah, I think
Don't be hating, come on, don't be hating.
we can give them a round of applause.
You can get these puppets on Amazon.
Awesome.
They're magnetic, I bring them to class. Okay, well, thank you, everybody.
And I'm sure Professor Spiegel might linger around if y'all had any more burning questions. But I'll just close this out real quick and say again, sign up for the retreat if you want. We just put the link in. We realized that the link, for whatever reason, did not post like a week ago when we put it in the chat. But it's there now, and it's working. So do that. Sign up tonight. I'm sure you all now realize that going out into the woods and appreciating beauty is objectively good. So you should come. And I also wanted to say, as Devin mentioned earlier, we are not meeting next week because of fall break. But 2 weeks from now, we are having Dr. Doima come back, and he's presenting a new argument for the existence of God, the audiological argument, which has something to do with music and listening things. It'll be really cool. I'm excited for it. He was going to do it last semester, but then something came up. He got sick, I think, so we had to reschedule, and I was really bummed. So it's happening now. So get hyped. But yeah, I'll pray us out, and then feel free to get snacks and just chatter about. Dear God, thank you for just blessing this time tonight, and I thank you for giving us morals and writing your law on our heart. And I thank you, God, for also just giving us forgiveness when we do violate that law. And I pray that we can just use these arguments just to show others how intuitive their own morals are and how it ultimately points back to you as the source of all good things. And I pray that you'll just bless our time going forth and the conversations we have and the rest of our week. In your holy name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
I think I and seems to me that Ted Bundy
Just with
thinks
this
he is
real-
objectively right, and all these subjectivists are just confused.
Yes, you could say that, he just says
If you
he's
have
not
somebody that
objectively
truly
right, he says,
believes
I
that
can do my rights.
Everything is
Just
subjective. I mean,
So he's just gonna say, I feel better just doing what I wanna do.
And who cares about all these?
If they truly
Or
believe
why,
everything
if
is
they don't have
subjective,
morality, it's all
and they like
marks, why is this
actually
hindering me from
yes,
fulfilling
and
my
there's really
desires
nothing you
to
can
do
do
what
about
right
it.
or wrong?
Except right.
He just, he thought this out, he was a sharp guy, they always said that, he just thought, there's nothing wrong with me doing this in the universe.
Sorry for getting distracted.
Oh, no, it's okay.
Yeah.
And thanks for contributing.
They say like, oh,
My thought
What's your
my
name?
thought is that murder is objectively wrong, and I'm
Well,
wrong.
hopefully you thought it was wrong. I was getting concerned.
Like themselves are wrong. And it's just like,
I'm dumb, I don't know anything.
yeah, it's like the
then maybe
human reason led me to believe that murder is objectively wrong. But there's no scientific evidence, like there's no logical reasoning to argue that murder objectively
Yeah, and you'll notice,
objectively wrong.
So I will
they're just
It's like
gonna.
We read